Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and I'm doing my discussion over Dragon Eclipse. Now, this is a few sessions into the series, and if you're new to the channel, then typically what I do with long-running campaigns is I will get a preliminary discussion out, kind of my overall thoughts early on, just what I'm liking, what I'm disliking so far, and then whenever I finish the campaign, I do a secondary full discussion over my overall thoughts. So, with all that being said, what do I think of Dragon Eclipse? Basically a solo campaign that is heavily Pokemon inspired, which is something that I think should be in the board game, industry way before all of this, but I understand that the licensing rights would be insane. So, whenever Awakened Realms announced something like this, I was heavily interested, because I was completely intrigued of the idea of capturing certain types of creatures that I thought were just going to be all dragons, because it's called Dragon Eclipse, and it's not at all about just capturing dragons. But I was kind of like, okay, capturing different creatures that you then use to battle other creatures that you can also tame or defeat, and how is that going to work itself into kind of mechanism-wise and as a narrative. And turns out so far, it's pretty damn good. There's a lot of really good decision-making that you have from a gameplay standpoint, and the story is, I was going to say incredibly intriguing, but it's intriguing. Now, again, I'm very early into the narrative part, basically just out of the tutorial, but it's already done enough to have piqued my interest. You have the two tutorial scenarios, really the one, but then you kind of have hey, here's how exploration works, and then here's how combat works, and then now you combine them all into the next one. But just from the get-go, whenever you're in the second scenario, it already is kind of interesting by the end of it, and then you get to make a decision on which path you want to go from then, or from there, and the story, at least for me, kind of has hooked me already. So there are two basic ways that Dragon Eclipse is played, where you have your exploration phase and then you have your combat phase, and they kind of, so far, seem to have kind of a beat where you will basically have a combat, then you do an exploration, then you have another combat. One thing I do really like about Dragon Eclipse is that it is scenario-based. So it's not some open world, figure out when you want to end it, which those games are perfectly fine. I just don't really like recording them because I have to set some arbitrary limit or some stop that I just deem as right for a video. But here it's I can end it when it tells me the scenario is over. I have a certain number of scenarios to be done. And what's amazing about those scenarios is it seems, unless it says somewhere else down the line, it seems to be very fail-forward. And I like that in every campaign game, because I have too many games to play that if you tell me to redo a scenario, I'm not doing that. So even if I wasn't recording, I wouldn't do that. But I love a narrative campaign where your failures still progress you forward. So far, that hasn't really impacted anything narratively, or at least that I'm aware of. Maybe winning scenarios would give you a status that I just haven't gotten yet. And because there's definitely been a lot of moments already where it's do you have this keyword or this status? No, I don't even know where I would have gotten that. And then you just have to do something else. So I've always loved their element of these status sheets. It's virtually the same effect as a keyword, but I like this element. And they have this in Tainted Grail and stuff, so it's always been super nice to see the progress you've made with certain texts that you can reference back to at later points and be oh, yes, I do have that. That's cool. Now I get to go to a special section that if I didn't have that, I wouldn't get to go to. But yeah, so the narration or the story is very intriguing, especially by the by that part, or by the part that I'm at, and it seems just on the very precipice of really diving into the story. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where that goes. Now, whenever we go over into the gameplay, there's a lot of stuff about the gameplay that I really like, and there's some stuff about it that I don't really care for. And it's not that there are major negatives about it, it's more of the fact that I don't really get to kind of test it out. And let's get the negative out of the way. It's either I'm playing certain fights wrong, which I don't think I am, or it's weirdly difficult. And I understand that, like, co-op games, or in this case a solo game, should be difficult. You shouldn't always win against whatever you're doing, and because of that you get to fail forward. But where it's odd to me is I'm not entirely sure if it's just a difficult fight, or if it's because I have, if I paired up a Mistling against a bad enemy. And normally I'd be like, oh yeah, this Mistling that I'm fighting right now gets bonuses if I'm using a grass type. You know, because in Pokemon you have weaknesses and you have strengths, and that is represented here. There's not as many types as in Pokemon, but there's enough to be, oh, if I'm fighting this young Shadeclaw, then if I'm a light Pokemon, if I'm a light Mistling, it will get to do more things. Now, it's not all the time, but it is there where a weakness, if you're fighting a particular Mistling and you have a weakness to it, then it's going to get to do more. Which I do like that. I like the fact that there are weaknesses and strengths. You also get strengths, like my Golemo. His Soil Feed card, if I'm fighting against a water type, then I would get to move. Alright, that's cool. But what's kind of unfortunate is whenever I've lost, it's not that it's felt unfair, because you can completely see what the enemy can do, which I also very much enjoy. I can see, oh, that's a triangle card at the top. I can see what that's going to do, so how can I either completely avoid that, or be able to take the brunt of it and set it up for a position for me to do something, which is very Oathsworn-like, and I love that about Oathsworn, and I like that here. But there have been multiple times that whenever I was losing, it never really felt that I had a shot. And I think that's kind of where it irks me a little bit. And I think it's more of just, did I just pick the wrong Mistling? Because you can have two with you. Did I just pick the one that just wasn't actually good against it? I don't know. I might never know, because I might never fight that type of enemy again. Now, if the campaign isn't overly long, you can redo it and remember, oh, last time I fought this, this enemy that I lost to, I used this Pokemon. Damn it! This Mistling, and that didn't work. Let me try a different one and see if it fares a little bit better. So far, it seems like high health is kind of the way to go, because there's a lot of enemies that you fight that do a bunch of damage, and if you don't have ways to absorb some of that damage, then you're dead in 3 hits. The other thing, and this kind of goes back into the exploration part of it, is money seems very difficult to come by already, and items and equipment are random to get. Like when you're drawing from the decks, it's just random, and if you don't have natural ways to go and get them, using certain types of Mistlings that have low health, if you have no way to naturally heal them or keep them in the fight, you're going to lose pretty quickly. And that is kind of upsetting whenever you're wanting, even if you're not trying to tame them. That's the thing. It's like you have options to either win, lose, or tame it. And the taming is very, very awesome in this game. I love that each Mistling has a different set of criteria that you have to meet to be able to have it in your party as an option. Every scenario, you get to pick 2 from your party to have to, play out the next scenario. And there's tons of different conditions for them they have to be done in that order. And so there's a lot of it where you are trying to position it to where you can actually get that if you really want that Mistling, or if you don't have an interest in having it in your party like you would in Pokemon, you could just decide to beat it. And I really like that. I think that's super cool. Something completely unique from any type of game that I've actually played, especially any campaign game. But it's not like in those ones that I've lost is that I was trying to tame it. Well, I think maybe the Elkhorn I was trying to tame. But it was just, wow, I have no shot. And I think a little bit of that has to do with like positioning and randomness. Because at the core of this game, it is a deck constructor, not a deck builder, where at the end of a scenario, you unlock, I mean, you literally open packs. Now, mine are actual packs. I think some copies come with envelopes that you just seed for setup whenever you're setting up your game. So, either way, you're opening up packs that give you a random assortment of cards, and then you are actually deck constructing. And you're deck constructing either for neutrals that can go in any Mistling deck, or specific ones that can go into that specific Mistling's deck. And that, again, is very cool if you like that deck construction process. It's not my favorite thing to do in the world, but what makes that a lot more manageable here is that it is only 16 cards in your deck. No more, no less. You are just managing 16 cards. And that makes me like it because it's 16 cards I have to try and synergize instead of 40 or 20, whatever it is, in just arbitrary game of deck construction here. It's more than 16. And so whenever I'm able to actually look through my cards and be like, this would be really good because this is the type of Mistling I have. Like a great example is one of the cards I put in Galamo's deck was called One with Armor. And yeah, it's a holographic. But it's gain 3 damage, move, you or your ally gains 3 power. And that is great for him because he has 24 health. That would be horrible for my young Emberling unless I had ways to naturally heal. That's not saying that card couldn't work in young Emberling's deck, but 3 damage to the young Emberling is a whole lot bigger than the Golemo, because the Golemo has 24 health, young Emberling has 14. So now if I get cards that have ways of healing, then maybe a 1 with armor would be good for the young Emberling because that would ramp up the power tokens, the power gems, which would allow the young Emberling to do its like Fire Nova attack and do a bunch of damage. So, but that's like the point is like I can curate a 16 card deck for 2 Emberlings way easier. But whenever it comes to the difficulty of when you're fighting, it might not even matter because of the randomness of your cards that come out. Now, what's also really cool about this game is you have almost a market of 4 cards out of your deck. It's not a hand of cards. I mean, it kind of is, but it's in an order that whenever you play that card, you get a certain number of power gems, which are used to do bonus actions. And your bonus actions are very straightforward. They're before your action card or after your action card, and you can only do each bonus action once. But that opens up a lot of stuff. I love the management of the power gems where it's like if you calculate it right, like the last fight I did with the Golemo, it's like, okay, so if I have 5, and that card is going to let me do, it's going to give me 1, and then when I play this card, it's going to give me 3. So I can actually spend that 1, or I can spend 2 to put out a Quake, which is going to be a lot, because then I will be able to play my card that lets me attack and still let me use my ultimate ability, and I'll have 4 Quakes out to then do 8 damage with my Tremors after my attack. That type of combo stuff with the card and the power gems is awesome, especially when you have a particular Mistling that is all about setting that up. So while it can be kind of frustrating whenever you lose, and it's like, well, why did I lose? Was it because of the randomness of my deck? Was it the randomness of their deck? Or was it the wrong Mistling matchup? Because so far I haven't been the victim of a weakness. None of the enemies that I have fought have been, strong against my type. So it's not that, but it's more of, I guess it's just understanding how the enemies fight. You get to see, oh, next, if I ever fight a Windrazor again, I know exactly what it does. I know that its card is going to have it, move and then trigger another card, which could have a rush and do 4 damage to me. So I'm going to pick a heavy hitter Mistling that, while might not be fast, can take the brunt of the damage and deal more back. Stuff like that. So I think that's just more of a learning how the game works, learning how the different enemies work, which there's a ton of in the game. So I love that it has that type of learning curve, which you would have in a Pokemon game. If you were fighting against a particular type and it's like, I didn't know that had Hyper Beam. Okay, well that just melted me. And it could be kind of counterintuitive to the fail forward system. If you're going to keep pushing forward and the scenario doesn't have you just naturally fight certain enemies, you might never get to have that learning experience again. But I know what they do is they have random encounters, so it's not just, oh, nope, you missed your window, you can't fight it, you can't tame it, it's gone. They have random encounters that get thrown in when you lose so that you can you get the chance of another one showing up to try another tame or to actually win. So other than that, like the positioning on the board, I find interesting. It kind of has a Too Many Bones Elder Scrolls feel where you're not moving all over the place. You're almost always within reach of the enemy or of any type of terrain that might be on the map, but you're not always in reach. And I think that's a really good balance, because there's something to be said about making the fights trivial, where it's like, it's so easy, I can get away from it, and it never gets to attack me. The AI is kind of stupid. I've never really felt that here. I felt that if the enemy couldn't actually do something to me, it's because I saw what it was going to do, I played the right card to get out of its way to position myself in a better position than what it's going to get to do. So it rewards good card play and punishes bad card play or bad positioning. And I've also, what's interesting is like the maps are slightly different in the sense that there are different icons that will kind of change based off the arena that's coming out. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that the arena cards are what changed the mat, even though there's not a million different boards that you're playing on. It's, here's the board that you just fought on in this scenario twice, but it has 2 different arena cards, and that kind of changes how you're going to move and position on the map. It, again, would be interesting to find out, hey, the first time I fought on this arena, I got my ass smacked because I used a certain type of Mistling. How would this go with a different type? So that would just be something to either figure out through playing the campaign again, or just maybe being lucky enough to have the same fight. Now, the way that the cards work on like their actual thing, I like the fact that you get buffs if there's a card that's on your on top of your discard pile. That's kind of interesting. There's not really a whole lot of stuff or games that I've played where the cards in your discard pile kind of matter. Hell, even the bonus action of the Earth Element is called Unity, where you take any card from your discard pile and you put it on top of your discard pile. It's not that you get it back, it's just that, oh, I know I'm going to do this really heavy attack that is going to put it on top of my discard pile that doesn't do anything for me. But I have 10 power crystals. I'm going to use 4 of them to take this card that gives me 3 defense and put that on top. So now I have 3 defense for when the enemy goes. And I think that that's very intriguing. And again, there's a lot of stuff that's in this game that I haven't really seen before, at least from a card play standpoint. There is stuff that I've seen before from a exploration standpoint with hidden numbers, and what's also kind of interesting about the exploration is there are the hidden numbers, which you've seen in many other games that has exploration. Seventh Continent, Tainted Grail, Sleeping Gods, all that kind of stuff. And I love that. One, it just helps for it to be like, oh, look at that! I'm going to go to that section. But you have no token. You have no movement in the exploration, so nothing's necessarily stopping you from going to every single location except that there's kind of an arbitrary time limit. And at this point, I haven't been able to do everything, but I've been able to do most things, and I really enjoy that. Because there have been certain types of dungeon crawl campaign style games where there were exploration points, like Descent, Legends of the Dark, or Mansions of Madness, where you're kind of able to look at and do everything. So you're going to look at and do everything. Here, when you're exploring, you have to be somewhat selective. Now, because you don't know if it's going to take a lot of time. A lot of times when you make a decision, hey, I want to go talk to the shopkeep and ask her what's going on, and she's complaining about some medallion that was stolen. You could be like, I don't care about that, I want to buy from you. Or you could see, okay, if I go and ask about the medallion, that's going to cost me time. I only have 3 time in this exploration phase before a secret card is revealed, and that will kind of change how something happens. It's going to cause an event to happen, which means now I have to hurry up a lot more. It is really nice because I don't really like games that allow you to see everything, because whenever you've seen everything, there's nothing left to do if you replay it. And Dragon Eclipse so far, from what I've experienced, does have an not necessarily, I don't know, abundance, but it does already have quite a few replay elements that I've already missed out on, and I love that. I love knowing that I've missed out on something, and that if I play it again, one, I can just pick a different team so far of Misslings, but then I can make different decisions and know that I'm going to get a different outcome. So, yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot else to actually talk about so far, because I'm not that far into it. And what's also kind of interesting is my friend is playing this game, and he's playing it at 2 players. And honestly, I don't really see why you would ever play this at 2. Just because it arbitrarily bumps up the stats of what you're fighting. There's still only one enemy. And you have this weird kind of taunt or tiebreaker token between 2 players. This game, for me, just really feels like it was designed solo, and then they added like 5 rules to make it 2-player. And I haven't touched any of the other modes. I haven't touched the roguelike mode. I think it said to beat the campaign first before you go into roguelike. Very interested to see that. But then also it's like a PvP element, which my friend who is playing this and I think we're going to try and get to a certain point in the campaign, and then we're going to do a PvP thing if it doesn't say to like beat the campaign first. Because I would imagine it's just pick a Missling and then use your current deck, construct a deck, and then fight one another. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, because the way the taming works, the taming is so difficult for a lot of them that I might have tamed ones that he hasn't tamed, and vice versa. So whenever we go to it, it's going to feel like a Pokemon battle where it's, oh man, and I'm going to, I choose you, Furwing. And it's like, oh, you actually got the Furwing? It's like, I did. That's going to be really fun, I think, if the actual gameplay of that is really good. So yeah. And a huge, huge bonus, they developed an app for it that has a pretty good narrator. I was surprised he actually did some voice. One thing that it is kind of missing that really only Foreteller does is add an ambiance. They have music, which the music is in total clash to what's happening. It is good mystical fantasy music, but in terms of like I'm in combat and it's like doing this weird pirate shanty, I'm not really feeling it. So I eventually will turn the music off. But whenever you're actually into it, it doesn't do like other voices of people who are talking, but it's still better than me having to read anything. So love the fact that there's an app, and that was done luckily before I got too far into it, where I wasn't like 10 sessions in and oh yay, now the app's out. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to actually continue this series and continue to see how it goes and continue to kind of decide which Misslings I want to bring. Because what's cool also about the scenarios is when you go to pick one, it tells you a hint. Like, hey, this kind of gear might be helpful. This kind of missling might be helpful, which you should probably take heed to and realize, if it's telling me I need food items, I should probably try and get some food items. Now, how you get those, no idea. I haven't been flush with silver. But I think as the campaign goes on, that's going to be a lot more prevalent. But you also don't have to do it. You could, trust that your deck construction is good for the misslings that you bring. You could also be trying to go for their combat quest that will evolve them or boost their power, and you know exactly how to do it. For Golemo, I need to deal at least 12 damage to one opponent, which I just realized I almost did. I almost did that. In one turn, deal at least 12 damage to one opponent. I think I dealt 10 in my last one. So those combat quests are extremely exciting to know that that's a main goal for your Mistling, to see what happens whenever you do it. And then your starter one is just you have to get a certain status. And once that's there, then you unlock it. So I also really like the fact that not all taming has been done through fighting. There was one with my Furwing that I was able to actually tame through an exploration phase. And that's really cool. So I'm excited to see how this game continues progressing. And I honestly have no idea how long it is. And I don't even know if you do every single scenario. Right now, it gave me a choice of one or two. And then I did one, and it's like, okay, now go do the other one. So I hope that it's not that. I hope it's not, you do all of them, but if, in different order. I would much prefer making hard decisions of, do I go left? Do I go right? If I go left, I cannot go right. I have to keep going, because that will... I don't know how many endings there are either. I don't know if it's a full narrative of this is the whole story, and how you kind of get there is a little bit different, but the ending's the same. Because I love campaign games where there are different endings, because that gives me a sense of replayability. And there's only been I know Sleeping Gods 1 and 2 had different endings. Fate Forge has different endings. I don't know how Dragon Eclipse is gonna shake up, because it doesn't say. There's no campaign log on the scenarios. You just keep going. So I'll find out whenever I'm done. But clearly I'm not anywhere close to that. And what's also amazing is that they've already announced another expansion for it, where it's in this grand tournament that gave me Elite Four vibes. So clearly they're going to be supporting it, which is extremely exciting. Unless this campaign ends up tanking, and then it's not exciting. So yeah, I'm digging it. I'm digging it quite a bit. And from an Awakened Realms game, this is easily their most accessible one. It is the easiest to learn, and it is the easiest to set up and tear down, because a lot of their games have a ton of boxes that they do a decent way of storage, but I feel like this one has the best one. I haven't had to do anything weird with the insert. Everything is organized in there and just nice and compact, so whenever I'm setting it up or tearing it down, it just fits all in there. So that is a huge plus, because some of their other games, it's now I have 3D printed inserts for them, but they were bags and bags, and I'm like, this is such a pain to try and, set up and play. This one, I do not have that issue at all. So I'm very, very excited to continue digging into this, and I think that's it. I can't really think of anything else about it. So, as of right now, I'm going to be giving Dragon Eclipse... Man, what do I give it? It really didn't have many negatives. Yeah, it's frustrating to kind of lose, and you're not sure why you lost. If it was a bad matchup, was it bad luck with the deck. But it has fail forward. But at the same time, this is the one time fail forward I kind of wish it didn't exist, because I want to try the fight again with a different Mistling, but I could easily fight it again later, and I just don't know how often that's going to present itself. I like the card play a lot. The deck construction can be fun. The way that the Mistlings play is radically different from one another. So that's amazing. The art is phenomenal. The storytelling's really intriguing. I'm going to come in at an 8. I think this is a very good game. I don't want to keep it too high because there's still kind of a lot of unknowns with this since I'm not super far into it. But as of right now, I am very much enjoying this one, and I'm excited to see if those other modes also work out really well, like the PvP and the roguelite, and the campaign is really good by the end of it. Then yeah, this could be awesome. So we'll see where it goes, but an 8 is still super high for just how far I am into it. And yeah, that's it. That's my thoughts on Dragon Eclipse so far. Let me know what you think of the game, and stick around for the rest of the series. And like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.